Hey friend, I hope you're having a good day. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about 3 of my street photography shots. But before then, I want to go ahead and tell you guys about this book right here that I'm rereading. The next book in the series hasn't come out yet, but this book is insane. If you haven't read it, you should definitely read it. It is this one right here, Rhythms of War. If the light can, there you go. Okay, so this is part of the Stormlight archive, and basically there's going to be 2 sections of like 5 books and then 5 books, like 2 parts, right? And this is the 4th book right here called Rhythm of War. But the cool thing about this, I'm just going to give you like a really quick type of introduction to it. Not really an introduction, more like a scene that I really like about this book. So there is a main character on there, just like super quick note. There's a main character on there that his name is Kaladin, and he can draw in Stormlight, which he can use to use different abilities with this Stormlight. So basically what happens is that since he can take in this Stormlight and he can just heal wounds that he's had before and everything, and he can heal wounds while he's flying and stuff like that. It's really insane, but just trust me, it's really good. But what I'm trying to get at is that in the beginning there is a point to where he is fighting these other type of enemies that can also fly, and basically they've been fighting with him for about a year now, and they know his abilities. So what one of them does, one of these enemies, is that he goes behind him and starts stabbing him on the neck, basically on the spine right here, and just keeps stabbing him on the spine, because he knows he can heal, but he also knows his limits. So if he keeps stabbing him, all of his Stormlight, his magic, is basically gonna go towards his neck and try to heal that wound, right? So he's basically making him run out of his magic, or his Stormlight. And it was just so brutal, and it's in the very beginning of the book, and it's definitely something that you would want to get into. It's sick. It's amazing. But definitely, if you haven't ever checked it out, definitely check out Brandon Sanderson's books, especially this of the Stormlight archive. So he actually ended up finishing The Wheel of Time after the author of The Wheel of Time ended up passing away, but he's also doing his own type of huge series that he's making with this, and then he's also releasing other works all the time. He's basically a epic fantasy type of writer, so if you like fantasy, you should definitely check it out. He has some amazing work. But okay, so now let's go ahead and get into my street photography. So for my first shot, it is called Weekend Shift. And for Weekend Shift, this was actually, I think it was this past weekend, whenever I did photography in downtown Dallas. So I noticed that a lot of people, especially workers, whenever they work on the weekends, they do all the stuff that they can't do during the week, obviously because there's not a lot of traffic there. So they'll be in front of buildings, they'll be on the street working. So I saw some people actually cleaning the windows outside of a walkway that goes across the road, but they actually put cones on the road so they can actually clean it up and everything. And there's just a whole bunch of people that end up doing stuff on the weekends that they can't do during the week. So that's why I call this Weekend Shift. But with this shot, what I really like about it is that it has 5 layers. So I have to explain it to you, and you wouldn't really notice it unless I explained it to you. So the first layer is going to be these first 3 posts. There's 1, 2, and 3 posts leading to the first subject, which is the person that is looking at the person that's on top of the ladder. And then the post leading to the person, that's the first layer, and then the first subject right there, that's the second layer, and then the posts that separate the person that's on top of the ladder from the person that's looking at the person on top of the ladder, that post, that's the third layer, and then the person on top of the ladder looking at the person that's on the floor looking at him, that's the 4th layer. And then the 5th layer is supposed to be the background, the tree in the very background, which kind of doesn't contradict, but it just doesn't fit in the scene because everything is super modern and everything, especially with the glass and all that stuff. But then I just wanted to add the tree in the background as a extra subject, kind of a contradiction to everything else that's in the image. But that's basically how I framed this shot. I framed it to be 5 different layers, and this is how it turned out, and it worked out. But I definitely had to walk around that area and take this picture from different angles. And I'm pretty sure I ended up using an 85mm on this just so that I can get like that really like long focal length. And then I was standing like a good distance away, but that's why I ended up, you know, catching this image in this type of like scenario with all the layers and everything. But that's the first image. Now for the second image, it is called Look Speaks Volumes. So this one was actually, so there is Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia. And then right behind it, there was a park, this park right here. So this park, I ended up sitting there because I had been doing street photography at that point for like 5 hours. So I wanted to like sit down and just chill before I got up again and, you know, had to go explore some more and do some more street photography. So what I ended up doing is that I was just sitting there, and while I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do any street photography. I'm just going to chill and, you know, just take a breather, right? But as I was sitting there, I ended up seeing a whole bunch of interactions that I wasn't noticing while I was walking around. So what I ended up doing is that I just took out my camera and I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm sitting down. I'm not walking around going all crazy trying to take pictures. So I'm just going to go ahead and take pictures of what I can. And I ended up taking a whole bunch of pictures. Even though it's supposed to be my break, I couldn't help it. There was just so many interesting things. And especially this one right here, where it's like such a genuine interaction between two friends. They're not random people. They actually know each other because they ended up going there together, and then they ended up leaving there together. But I just like the expression. I ended up taking a few shots of them, but this is the one that caught my eye the most because of the expression that they have in their faces, looking at each other, kind of like, you know, looking at each other and being like, really is that expression. But what I like about shots like these, especially whenever it's a person looking at a person, it's all up to interpretation. Like, you can say whatever, you know, you want. You can interpret it however you want. You can say, oh, they're saying really, or you can put whatever type of conversation you want into that picture, and it'll work because you're interpreting it yourself, you know, how you interpret art. But this is this shot right here. And then the next one, it is called Market Street East. So for Market Street East, this shot right here, it was it's inside of the court, inside of the Philadelphia City Hall. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, Philadelphia City Hall. But inside of there is so you can walk inside of this City Hall. It's kind of like that whole like European style where like most city halls you can actually walk into and like hang out. There's benches in the middle and everything. You can just hang out there and everything. So I ended up going there, and I was doing street photography around the area, and I actually ended up taking pictures of all these entrances because each one of these like tunnels, there's 4 like, you know, like tunnels, they all lead to a separate street. So this is Market Street East, and you could just, you know, follow it and it just goes to Market Street. But what I really liked about this one, that if I don't really point it out, you're not going to notice it. Well, at least I don't think you'll notice it because it's like super far away. But what I really liked about it is that everybody in the image is a shadow, like a dark shadow. But then if you look all the way to the very end of the image, you can actually see somebody standing in white, and they just stand out. And that's what stood out to me whenever I was looking like through like the actual viewfinder. When I was looking through the viewfinder, taking the image, that's what caught my eye. What caught my eye is that everybody else was like darked out and like super shaded and everything. And that person, since they were wearing white, they just like stood out. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to make them my subject, even though nobody's really going to know that they are the subject because I'm not specifically pointing them out to be the subject, but explaining it after the fact. Like right now you guys know what the actual subject of this image is. And now if I had like cropped it in a little bit more or gotten like a way like tighter focal length, it would have made it more obvious of who the subject is. But I just liked this whole aspect of like actually like capturing the whole tunnel with like the super dark shadows on both sides, and then, you know, going all the way to that super small subject in the middle. Even though most people won't notice because you really have to look for this subject. But those are the 3 images for today, guys, and I really appreciate all the support. I know some of these videos can be like all like iffy because I'm not writing a script or anything, but this is just how I like to talk on these videos, and I'm really enjoying making these videos so far. So I really hope you have a good night, and I'll go ahead and catch you next time.